Alright, YouTube and Fallout community, so today guys we're going to talk about 3 reasons why Fallout New Vegas is better than Fallout 4. Now I know a lot of you are probably thinking, there's a hell of a lot more than 3, and you are right in a lot of ways, but these 3 reasons are explained pretty fucking well, so let's go over it. Our article comes to us from Desiblitz.com, linked below as always. In some ways, Fallout New Vegas is the biggest underdog in gaming. Bethesda role-playing games hail in the industry as the hallmark of their genre. From Skyrim to Fallout 4, these games consistently receive huge critical and commercial success. Against such, it would be easy for any game to get lost in the shadow. However, the continued oversight of Fallout New Vegas is more important than this. A superb game in its own right, but also arguably far better than the popular 2015 entry too. Certainly, no one can deny that Bethesda deserves much praise for bringing the post-apocalyptic franchise back from the dead. Until the release of Fallout 3 in 2008, it seemed like the series had run its course. Yet many will argue that Fallout New Vegas hails as a better gaming experience than the 2015 entry, at least in some significant ways. With the franchise undoubtedly set to continue, identifying these successes are hugely important for future games. With this in mind, let's take a look at 3 ways the game is better than its more recent and more popular sibling. Really quickly though, I don't necessarily know that it's more popular. Yeah, it is more accessible to newer players because it's more of a first-person shooter as opposed to like an RPG type of game. And then it also like pushed it a lot more with the marketing and of course mods and things like that. I don't know that it's necessarily more popular. It was just a newer version of the game. Like usually series get bigger as they go. So if they came out with Fallout New Vegas 2 tomorrow, it'd probably sell more than Fallout 4. First up is character choice truly in the player's hands. The basic premise of the franchise lies in letting the player loose in a post-apocalyptic America. With that comes the option of letting the player choose who they want to be. Fallout New Vegas wisely ensures its protagonist remains as blank a slate as they can get. The player only knows 3 things about their character. They are a courier, they had to deliver an important item, and a man shot them in the head for it. With your character relatively unknown to the Mojave Wasteland setting, what they were prior to becoming a courier is for you to decide. Proving to hell as one of the best RPGs in this, players can even decide whether they wish to pursue the main quest at all and what path they decide to take it in. However, Fallout 4 carried a key failure in this. The game sets your character on a fixed path from the get-go. They have a family, specifically a spouse and a baby son, and have a background in either the military or law depending if you play the husband or wife. The player can ignore this backstory of course, but not in a way that protects whatever story they want to have in the game. Whether you're an absent, uncaring parent or not, the game ensures that all its players are parents all the same. But with Fallout New Vegas lacking any fixed character ties, such as missing children, means the player can decide what their character's story will be, a feature all too important in RPGs. You know, this is something I've kind of touched on in the past about how different Fallout New Vegas is from 3 and 4, and I didn't go in this in depth with it. I never really realized how different the story was and how you don't really know your history that much, as opposed to 3 where you kind of have a bit of a history, but not so much. You know, you're not in the vault too damn long, and with Fallout 4 you really have a fixed story because the entire time you're chasing your son. You can look at a game like Witcher 3, which is a great RPG, where you already have a fixed history and story, right? Like you already know what your character's history is going to be throughout dialogue and things like that. And if you've played the previous games, and you can still have a great RPG, one of the best RPGs of all time, if not the best. Like it's considered, you know, one of the best of all time. So it can happen with the right kind of a backstory, but Fallout 4 just did it kind of wrong. Now, you do learn a bit of backstory with your main character during the Lonesome Road DLC with Ulysses. Now, I don't remember exactly, you know, my memory's a little choppy. I've only played through this DLC a few times, if even that, and it's been a while. But if I'm not mistaken, the Great Divide used to be like a trading post or something like that, or there was a town in the Great Divide that was a trading post. And at one point, somehow you get hired to move the Platinum Chip, and that just kind of kicks off the Fallout New Vegas story. But you don't, you know, the Great Divide, or the Lonesome Road DLC came out, you know, after the base game, and when you start the base game, you still don't know your history. So I get what they're saying. Number 2 is a story with exploration. Somewhat similar to the game's emphasis on player choice is the story's strength. Undeniably, there are more complex tales in other games. Many could argue that Fallout 4 contains the better story, given the more personal, if more rigid, nature of its story. Yet the strength of Fallout New Vegas lies in how it hinges on gameplay. The series has always had a strong emphasis on exploration and side quests. The 2008 entry makes room by giving its players enough slack in the story to engage in these diversions. The plot's main momentum comes from your courier search to find out why they were nearly killed. This means the player is free within the game's narrative to take on as many side quests as they want. The only person you are affecting by not pursuing the main quest is yourself. In addition, its impressive story revolves its main plot around various factions, much like the latest entry, yet interacting with these groups feel more natural. Moreover, there is the option at all times to ditch the big factions altogether and carve out your own path. Altogether, New Vegas' handling of its story is impressive, not just in comparison to Fallout 4, but open world RPGs in general. The story never loses sight of the gameplay and never stops making room for it. The story really is one of the strongest points with Fallout New Vegas, and it's not even that it's necessarily a great story, but it's your choices. You have the option to do literally anything you want in Fallout New Vegas. You can kill everybody, you can side with everybody more or less, you can kill the NCR and side with Legion, you can kill the Legion and side with NCR, you can side with Mr. House, you can turn on Mr. House and steal the Securitrons. Like, there's so many options when it comes to the story, and I think they kind of rolled with that, because they kind of eliminate your history because you get shot in the head, and you kind of have amnesia. They're like, well, you don't really know your history, so you can kind of make it up as you play. Maybe we should make up this, let them be able to choose what they want the story to be as well. And I think that it doesn't necessarily have the best story when it comes to, compared to 3 or 4, but the options are what makes it truly the best story, I think, when it comes to all 3 games. The story choices in Fallout New Vegas really promote multiple playthroughs, and it really adds to the replay value of Fallout New Vegas because you can do a different playthrough. You don't really have that option that much. You don't have the option really at all with Fallout 3 other than the major choices. And with Fallout 4, you can choose a different faction, and it alters the story, of course, but it's not as major as like Fallout New Vegas because you're literally shaping the entire game and what happens. Number 3 is the controversial combat. Praising the game's combat, especially in comparison to Fallout 4's, is likely to be controversial for many. Undeniably, the latest entry's combat is stronger in many areas, an altogether more visceral and action-oriented experience. It also lacks some of the past game's annoyances. Yet it lacks other things too. Notably, the action emphasis of the combat system means it loses the traditional RPG mechanics. For point of reference, Fallout New Vegas serves as a good comparison. It carries over some of Fallout 3's weaknesses, yet the combat system nevertheless balances its RPG and action game priorities better. As in Fallout 4, you can also aim down sights. This means combat outside of the turn-based VAT system is much more accessible. At the same time, though, the likes of stats and perks have a much more tangible impact than in the 2015 entry. If you don't invest points in the gun skills, your handling of pistols will feel extremely lacking. Likewise, perks have a much more obvious effect on gameplay in New Vegas than the watered-down version of the system seen in Fallout 4. And the availability of traits too, perks that come with negative and positives, means you can customize your gameplay experience to an even greater degree. As ultimately an RPG, a Fallout game should have a strong emphasis on choice and consequences. The likes of stats and perks are a hugely important extension of this. They're pretty right about this being controversial because I disagree with most of it. For starters, stats and perks aren't just combat related, so I don't even know why they were in that kind of argument right there, because not all stats and perks have to do with your combat. Obviously you have lockpicking, you have hacking, you have speech and things like that. So not and sneaking and shit. Well, sneaking is combat, but it can also be for pickpocketing and shit like that. So stats aren't just about that. But I do agree that the getting rid of stats and I've said several times I don't like the new perk system. So I can agree with those, but not necessarily towards combat. And then on the other spectrum of things, I disagree because I think the combat in Fallout 4 is superior in every fucking way to Fallout New Vegas. Especially being a first-person player, like I play, Call of Duty and things like that. It was a nice transition. I like being able to hotkey grenades. I like that VATS doesn't pause time; it just slows down time now. I like that you can bash with your weapons. It's nice having a melee attack. They really should have just made that third entry that Fallout New Vegas had a better stats and perk system, as opposed to saying that it has a better combat system, because it simply does not. You are wrong on that. And they wrap up the article with Fallout New Vegas, the best Fallout game. Fallout 4 is by no means a bad game, yet as a role-playing game it contains serious flaws. A game of this series should have the player choice at its center. Fallout New Vegas hails as an entry with such a focus. Here, player choice is truly at the heart of the experience, whether it lies in the game mechanics, story, or smaller elements. Fans will have a long time to wait for a potential Fallout 5, as Bethesda has yet to add a new entry in the fellow franchise, The Elder Scrolls. Perhaps this hails as an equally ideal time for the 2008 game to get its own sequel. I completely disagree with that. Why would you want a sequel to Fallout 3? That's kind of weird. I thought that was an interesting article because I've done my fair share of comparing, Fallout 3, New Vegas, and 4, like what their good points are, the bad points, and what my favorite is, which of course is Fallout New Vegas. And I'll defend to the death that it's the best one in the series. So I thought that their point of view on some of this stuff was pretty interesting, some things I never really thought about, but also wanted to kind of disagree with them on the third entry about the combat being better, because that seems just kind of odd to me that they would even consider that. As I mentioned previously, there's definitely more than 3 reasons why I believe that Fallout New Vegas is better than Fallout 4. But let me know in the comments below what your favorite Fallout is and why it's better than the other ones. Anyways, guys, if you want to enjoy the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you guys are new, turn on my notifications, follow me on Twitter, links to my social networks are in the description. In the outro, later guys.
Tell me pretty lies, look me in the face. Tell me that you love me, even if it's fake, 'cause I don't fucking care.